Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A, where today we're getting you set for a pretty fun slate for tonight in MLB DFS. We have 12 games available for tonight, 3, I think, pretty good pitchers, and a lot of fun stacks to sort through. So let's go now, break it on down, and answer some questions you may have. My name is Jim Sanas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A, where we are answering your questions for the next 25 minutes on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages, getting you set for Friday night's main MLB DFS slate. As a reminder, we are doing this every Monday through Friday. We have this one at 4 p.m. and also the solo shot is recorded live on the FanDuel YouTube page at 9 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube page to get notifications as we go live each and every time, each and every day. And then also, if you're watching on Twitch or Facebook, give us a follow there as well so you can know as we go live each day. For tonight's slate, it's looking pretty fun. We've got Aaron Nola as my top-ranked pitcher for tonight. He's facing Max Fried, who is my number 2-ranked pitcher. I also think that this is the time where we want to buy in to Walker Buehler at $8,500. So a lot of different ways to dissect this slate. Let's get those questions in. If you are watching on YouTube, put them in the chat section, and I'll get to those questions there. Also taking questions via Twitch and Facebook to get you set for tonight. If you have questions about one-offs, questions about stacks, questions about pitchers, whatever it may be, we'll be answering those questions for the next 25 minutes. The reason I have Aaron Nola at the top of my list for tonight is that he's made a change this year, and I say change intentionally because he's throwing his changeup a lot more. He's throwing that pitch about 30% of the time. Scroll down here to check out the pitch mix. Yeah, 34% changeup usage for Aaron Nola, up from 19% last year. And it's been crazy, crazy effective. A 40% strikeout rate, 4% walk rate, a 14.8% swinging strike rate. He has been a whole new pitcher. So Aaron Nola, my number 1 pitcher for tonight at 10-7. I do like Max Fried as well. He is in that same game. He checks in at $9,400. So if you can watch Braves versus Phillies, you're going to see some good pitching out there. Ghost Blazer on Twitch is asking favorite value pitcher for tonight. It depends on your definition of value. For me, I tend to call any pitcher whose salary is below $9,000 as being a value pitcher. And as a result of that very liberal definition of it, I think Walker Buehler is the best value. We've seen Walker Buehler's pitch counts be pretty muted so far this year. He was around like 50 to open the year and has been slowly working his way up. But over his past 2 starts, he's been at 87 and 89 pitches. So I think the pitch count concerns around Walker Buehler are no longer there. He's also facing the Rockies. You got to love that. Not a team that hits very well outside of Coors Field, especially against righties. So an upgrade there for Buehler as well. You see these numbers here. 5.10 skill interactive ERA, 5.21 ERA. Those aren't good numbers. So you could be scared off of Buehler as a result of that. But when you look at his pitches and look at the velocity that he's had so far, his four-seam fastball velocity pretty much the exact same as it was last year. A little bit of a dip on some of his other pitches, and we have seen the horizontal or the vertical movement on his curveball be lesser than it was last year. But I don't think that's a big enough concern to have me go totally away from Walker Buehler. $8,500, I think that if you had to set like a betting line for the lowest salary we get for Buehler the entire year, this would probably be it. So I would say if you want a lower salary pitcher who can help you get up to the stacks that you want to plug in, I think that Buehler is that guy. There aren't a lot of other pitchers I think are all that intriguing among the guys who are not super expensive for tonight. Andrew Heaney does get strikeouts, but he's facing a really good offense with the Oakland A's, especially against lefties. They can crush there. I don't feel great about Jake Odorizzi's pitch count. He's been at 79 for his max so far this year. So to me, I think it centers around Nola, it centers around Fried, and Buehler is my 3 pitchers that I want to use for tonight. Keeping things pretty tight. Maybe you could go Chad Kuhl. I'm not there personally, but I think you could at least give him consideration if you really want to dive down a pitcher. Where is Kuhl here? He is $6,600. So if you want to go super cheap, Kuhl, I would say Kuhl. But it's not a place I want to go personally tonight. Thoughts on Hauser being a long shot starter for tonight? This is from Billy over on YouTube. I am an Adrian Hauser fan in general, and he is facing the Pittsburgh Pirates for tonight. The reason that I'm not super into Hauser specifically on the slate is that the strikeout rate for Hauser has been lower this year. It's at 20%. He's been changing things up, throwing more sinkers over his past 3 starts, and that's where the lack of strikeouts has shown up. So I think that Hauser, like the odds he gets you a quality start are probably pretty good because the Pirates are not. But I think I want more juice. I want more strikeout upside, and Hauser isn't getting that right now, and I don't expect that to change until he cuts back down on that sinker usage. So for right now, I'm off of Hauser, but I think if you're just looking straight floor, he can work. That's just not the way I play pitcher when it comes to DFS. Johnny is asking, who is an under-the-radar stack for tonight? Okay, so let's take a look at stacks here. I think that Cleveland will probably be pretty popular. I would assume the same with the Red Sox. One stack that I would expect to be a little bit under the radar is the White Sox. They're facing John Lester. Lester doesn't give any strikeouts, a 15% strikeout rate so far this year. And that's kind of the one big Achilles heel of this White Sox offense is striking out. They will strike out a decent amount, but I mean, they've been just disgusting against lefties so far this year. And if you look at their numbers for the active roster since the start of last year, it's a 124 WRC plus versus lefties. Edwin Encarnacion is finally hitting once again. So I think if you're looking for a true under-the-radar stack, I would probably skew towards the White Sox as being there. I do think the Angels are probably going to go a bit overlooked too, just because they're playing in a bad park. It's not as bad as usual because there aren't many good parks on tonight's slate. The team total for the Angels, 4.83, so that's not super low, but I still think that they're probably not going to be that popular. So I think that the Angels and the White Sox are two teams I think will go a bit overlooked. Do you like this is from Alvin. Do you like the Rangers or the Astros as stacks or one-offs? So the Rangers, I believe, are facing Margevicius. Yeah, they're facing Nick Margevicius. Not the best numbers. The reason I don't feel myself going there, Alvin, is that they just put Willie Calhoun. I know he's a lefty, but they just put Willie Calhoun and Elvis Andrus on the injured list, and it's not as if Texas had a lot of good hitters to begin with. So I don't think that lineup is out yet. But when that lineup comes out, the question I'm going to ask myself is how many actual quality hitters that I want to use are in this lineup? I'm guessing the number for Texas is going to be pretty low. So it's hard for me to get to a stack there. The Astros, kind of in a similar spot. It's a better offense, obviously, but George Springer's not at full health. They just lost Alex Bregman to the injured list too. And Garrett Richards can get some strikeouts. Richards this year, I guess an 18% strikeout rate. It's a little bit lower. Maybe you could go at the Astros there, but I'm not super inclined because they've been losing some pretty good hitters, and that's a tough downgrade. So neither team super high on my list for tonight. I prefer the Astros between the two. Maybe some one-offs on Texas if there are actual hitters that you do like there. They're just probably not going to get it done for me. Timothy is asking, what about a Cleveland stack? They kill the Tigers. So I wouldn't go because they do well against Detroit. I would go because Michael Fulmer, the velocity is really low. He's coming back from Tommy John. So you kind of do expect that. You expect the velocity to be low as he comes back from Tommy John. That's just kind of how things go. So I'm not expecting this to change. Fulmer, 5.72 skill interactive ERA this year, 15% strikeout rate. That's not high enough. So I like Cleveland's offense a lot. I would say they are probably my number 2 stack. I do prefer the Dodgers overall. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers, my number 1 stack. Cleveland is my number 2 stack. Tyler Naquin batting 6th is $2,300. From Reyes is $3,100. So Cleveland, very affordable. Their offense has been slowly digging their way out of that hideous rut they were in to start the year. So Cleveland, my number 2 stack. I am very on board with them for tonight to answer your question, Timothy. Best value infielders for tonight. This is from Chris over on Facebook. So value infielders, let's go over here. It depends, I guess, what position you're looking for. Jonathan Scope's okay. I like him as a hitter, and he's facing Adam Pletko, not a guy that I fear that much. Donovan Solano is facing a lefty, and I actually kind of don't think the Giants are totally out of play. I know this has been 2 straight nights where I've been okay with stacking the Giants, which feels very weird considering they are at home. But I don't hate it, honestly. I would say that. So I think you can consider them at second base as being some lower salaried guys to consider. Scrolling over to third base, Eugenio Suarez facing Dakota Hudson. Hudson gets a lot of ground balls, but not necessarily something we have to avoid. So I could consider that. Marwin Gonzalez is facing Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy's okay, but not something you need to avoid. Gonzalez had weird numbers this year. Hit a home run a couple nights ago, though, so I think I could do that. Evan Longoria also works. So you've actually got a pretty decent number of options in like the $27-ish $100 range at both second base and third base you could potentially turn to. Shortstops, let's see. Nico Goodrum, okay. I think that one would work as a potential lowish salary hitter. I think that's probably the number one for me. So yeah, you got options around 27 or 28 or so at second base, third base, and shortstop. William is asking, Padres, Grand Slam number 5. Yeah, they've just been on this disgusting tear. There was like this dude who made a bet that the Padres wouldn't hit a Grand Slam last night. He'd run like, I don't know, in like his underwear on a Capitol or something. I just saw it on Twitter. It's very weird. I'm not going to make that bet. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to make that bet personally. Padres are facing Lance McCullers. I'll say no. Give me no on the Padres hitting a Grand Slam, but I am putting nothing on the line here in case that goes poorly. Jesus is asking, cool, ? Yes, I do think that cool is interesting. I'm not going to use it personally. I want to be fully transparent about that because pitch count hasn't gotten high enough, and I don't expect it to get high because the Pirates kind of have no reason to really push him, but he's been good. He's made 2 starts this year, and his numbers in those 2 starts have looked awesome. As his pitch count has gone up, he's still been getting swings and misses, so I definitely like that. 33% strikeout rate overall. So personally, I will not be using cool. I think that my pitching core tonight will be just the 3 pitchers we talked about before with Nola, Fried, and Walker Buehler. But I think that if I needed to go with someone super cheap, cool would be the guy that I would turn to there. Top 3 pitchers from Jesus. Just mentioned that I would go, you asked this before, so obviously, sorry on the timing there, but I would go with Nola, Fried, and Buehler for my pitchers. William wants to go with the Sox and the Giants. Yeah, like I said, I think the Giants are actually kind of okay. I like both the Red Sox and the White Sox. I'm not sure which one you wanted there, but I think both are fine. Twitch from Justin, what is your thoughts on a red stack? Talked about this a tiny bit before. They're facing Dakota Hudson, and Dakota Hudson really good at getting ground balls. And when I could avoid it, couldn't really avoid it last night, but I do want to avoid ground balls. Hudson's walked a lot of guys this year, and he's left some hard contact, but getting more strikeouts, getting ground balls, I think that they're okay, but they're not going to crack my top 6. They're not a team I would necessarily talk you out of because they're not facing a high strikeout guy, but I still think that they're fine. Is Austin Slater the truth? This is coming from Chris. He's been pretty good. I get annoyed with stacking the Giants because they are so – it's been less of an issue recently because the roster cut downs, but they are so platoon heavy that once the lefty leaves, will Austin Slater stay in the game? I had that concern with literally everyone on their team, and it bugs me outside of Evan Longoria. So I don't tend to enjoy stacking them, but Austin Slater, putting up good numbers, 47% hard hit rates overall this year. It's been a lot against lefties, so it's kind of skewed because it's him basically with the platoon advantage, but he's putting up good numbers. So definitely can't hate on that. Question from Johnny, favorite hitter regardless of format tonight. So I get to pick any hitter I want with no ramifications. Okay. So I don't know if I'd put this guy at the top of my list. I'm not sure who would be my number 1 player for tonight. But I used JD Martinez last night. He had a warning track fly ball. So I am going to call it that JD Martinez goes yard twice tonight off of John Means. Maybe not John Means both times, but JD Martinez hitting a couple dingers. You heard it here first. Corey is stuck between a right-handed Twins batter stack or a left-handed batted Dodgers stack. How do you feel? I would go Dodgers. The Twins lineup drove me nuts when I saw it. I know it's because they lost Mitch Garver and Byron Buxton, 2 of my heartthrobs, which is annoying. So it's not their fault necessarily that their lineup stinks, but Ildemaro Vargas is batting 6th. That's kind of weird. Jake Cave is batting 2nd against the lefty. That's also kind of weird. So I hate the Twins lineup. Therefore, I'm not going to stack them. So give me Dodgers. I think the Dodgers, again, are my number 1 stack facing John Gray. Really low velocity this year. He's faced bad teams and has still had bad results. So Dodgers are my number 1 stack, so give me them, Corey. Alvin asked, where do you rank a Twin stack? Again, out of protest, no Twins for me tonight. It's totally a great way to play things. I wasn't super into them to begin with because Danny Duffy can get some strikeouts. He is at 28% in this sample, so I wasn't on them to begin with, but I'm even lower because I hate their lineup. Timothy, I know you like Bueller, but what about a Rocky stack to go under the radar if he can't get it in the strike zone? So I've mentioned this before. I think that there is value in stacking against pitchers who you think will be too popular. I think that there are certain situations, though, where you don't need to necessarily get too cute. And I think that's probably where I'd be. The reason that I think the Rockies don't do it for me is that, A, they're the Rockies. They're not in Coors Field. They've been in Coors Field for a while. They tend to struggle once they get out of Coors Field after a homestand. And even in a sample where Bueller's been using his four-seam fastball less, he's still got a 26% strikeout rate. This does include last year. So, take that with a grain of salt. But the Rockies' WRC plus versus righties since the start of last year is 83. That's like Detroit Tigers-esque. They're really bad when they're not in Coors Field. So that's probably why I would stay away from a Rocky stack. I think there are other ways you can be different. Like I said, I think the White Sox are kind of fun as a potentially under-the-radar type stack. And the Angels are probably going to be there too. With a 12-game slate, you don't have to be that weird to get off the chalk. So I think that's where I would go there. Question from Twitter, from Periscope, from Munchie Jenkins. Interesting. I'm still trying to get the hang of building a good lineup. How do you use what you're using? So for me, everything starts with pitchers. So what I would say, if you are trying to get a handle on an MLB DFS slate, is focus all of your attention on the pitchers. And that's why my sheet here just looks at these starters. It can show me what they've done in what I deem to be those most relevant samples. So for me, everything starts at pitcher. If I'm filling out a lineup and I'm trying to make a good lineup, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my sheet and I want to decide which pitcher I want to use. And I look at the sheet for tonight. I see Aaron Nola is a robot. And I'm like, okay, cool. I want Aaron Nola. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to decide, first thing I do, plug in Aaron Nola. I don't care what the number says for average remaining salary. I am going to use Aaron Nola as my pitcher pretty much regardless of what I have. So 38 is left for the pitcher or for the hitters. Then once I know what that number is and know what I have to work with, I figure out my stack. So if I have Nola in there, it probably means I'm not going to get the Dodgers. That's kind of a bummer. So I look at Cleveland's lineup and try to figure out what I want to do with them because they do have some value plays and I can turn to them while using Aaron Nola as my pitcher. The Cleveland lineup wasn't in when I loaded this, so we'll refresh that. But what I would say is my process is figure out the pitcher first, figure out your first stack second based on the salary of that pitcher, and then figure out a second stack to go with them. It's a very simplistic way to do so because you don't have to go. You're kind of boiling it down to essentially 3 building blocks for each lineup. But that's the way I do things, just kind of making things simple and trying to start with the pitcher, then go with the 2 stacks after that. Travis Bauer asking about a Cleveland pitcher. Interesting. A Bauer talking about Cleveland. What could this possibly be? Adam Pletko, ? Talking about Pletko facing the Tigers. Great matchup. Pletko is not a high strikeout guy, though. So for me, we were just talking about the process for pitchers. I basically, if you gave me only one number for a pitcher to look at, I'd look at this one. I'd look at their strikeout rate in the most relevant sample. And Pletko's strikeout rate in that sample is 19.6%. That's lower than I want it to be. Nola's at 40%. Fried is at 25%. Walker Buehler's at 26%. When I can get that number of strikeouts in not as good matchups, but still like not terrifying matchups, I'm going to take that. So Pletko doesn't really do it for me because of the low strikeout ways, but the matchup's great. He's at home. There are things working in his favor, just not quite going to get there for me because I do need more strikeouts out of my pitcher. Austin, I am routinely 60 points back. Not sure what I'm missing. One issue that could lead to that is not emphasizing upside at hitters. So I think that another kind of like shortcut, and DFS is about shortcuts because we don't have 19 hours to fill out lineups. At least I don't, because like I've got a job. I've got to do these podcasts and stuff like that. So I don't have 19 hours to do lineups. I need shortcuts. So for hitters, the shortcut is, are they in a stack that I like? Do they have upside? And what I mean by upside is, do they have power or can they steal bases? If they can't do either of those things, it's hard for me to get there. if they're not in a stack that I really like, it's hard for me to get there too, because my whole process revolves around stacking. I want to have as few one-offs in my lineup as I can possibly get. So to me, I would say make sure the hitters you are using are guys who have upside. I love Jed Lowry. Jed Lowry back in the day was awesome. He was this guy who had like 97 doubles. That's an exaggeration, but we're going to round up because why not? 97 doubles, and he was great. But he wasn't the best DFS asset because he didn't really get dingers. He didn't steal bases. So do they have upside? That's what I'd ask yourself, Austin, about the hitters you're putting in your lineup. Make sure they have a path to upside, whether it be via steals, via power, whatever it may be. That's a good way to view things. And that can get you, that 60 points that you need there. Chris, favorite catcher/first base play, regardless of salary. Okay, so I went JD Martinez overall. Let's go over here and check out catcher/first base and try to decide who I want regardless of salary. Giving me a lot of leash here, Chris. I respect it and I appreciate it. Okay, Anthony Rizzo's facing Dallas Keuchel. That's a lefty. Don't really want that. Paul Goldschmidt facing a ground ball guy. Let's see what Carlos Santana's been doing recently. Pull up his numbers here. Not his numbers. I'm pulling up his player card. Don't do this. This is a bad process. I'm cheating. Okay, so he's actually hitting for some power now. This is the upside we were talking about here. A couple dingers. So I like Santana. He's facing Fulmer. Hasn't been pitching all that well coming off of the Tommy John. So I think that Santana's probably up there. So regardless of salary, I would go Santana. I think that all the White Sox dudes, there are like 15 different White Sox dudes you consider between Grandal, Abreu, and Encarnacion. I'm on board with all those guys. I think that it might wind up being Carlos Santana, though. So I think that's probably where I'll wind up there. Johnny is asking, thoughts are being a Twins fan, which is me, yes. Is Sano worth a spot? If he doesn't hit a home run, it seems like he won't really score any points. That's true for most hitters. So I wouldn't necessarily use that as a reason not to use someone, because Mike Trout can go for 4 and does do. He doesn't do it very often because he's Mike Trout, but every hitter has a floor of 0 points. So to me, if I ever say the word floor when talking about a batter, turn me off. Just shut off the podcast, turn off the stream, whatever it may be, because no hitter has a floor. Stacks have floors, but individual hitters do not have floors. So I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that if he doesn't hit a home run, he's doing nothing. The reason that I'm not on Sano is that, like I said before, Danny Duffy can get strikeouts, and that's basically the worst case scenario for Miguel Sano, is facing a guy who can get strikeouts. And I am, again, out of defiance, not stacking the Twins because their lineup stinks. I hate it, so I am not going there. Again, it's a terrible process. Don't listen to me. But out of defiance, no Twins. That includes Miguel Sano. Question from Johnny. Thoughts on a Cincinnati stack? Seems a few times I pick them. They don't do well. I had a Cincinnati stack last night. It was okay. Not really anything offensively was popping last night, so I can't necessarily pin that on them. Like I said before, I think that the reason I'm not on Cincinnati is that Dakota Hudson gets a lot of ground balls. Let's pull up his numbers here. Actually, I thought Dakota Hudson's kind of like an interesting pitcher in a lot of ways. If he could get some more strikeouts, he could be really good. Hasn't gotten there yet, so I wouldn't necessarily put him in that zone necessarily. But so far this year, a 4.35 skill interactive ERA, 52% ground ball rate, and a 57% ground ball rate last year. So personally, still not stacking against Dakota Hudson. See what he does against lefties, because that's kind of the more important thing when you're facing the Reds, because they have so many lefties within their lineup. Lefties do better, but if we scroll down here and check out the ground ball rate, still 50%. So I probably would not go at the Reds. I get it because, they have a lot of cheap guys or a lot of low-salaried hitters. That's definitely appealing for sure, but not one that I'm going to get to personally. See if the Red Sox. Okay, Red Sox lineup is out. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with my call of JD Martinez going deep twice. I think that Kevin Pillar and Christian Vasquez, couple of good potential value plays you could go to. What pitchers do you like if you want the Dodgers? So the Dodgers are higher salary, which means I need a lower salaried pitcher. That means you pair them with the guy starting for the Los Angeles Dodgers in Walker Buehler, $8,500. I can make a Dodgers stack work with Max Fried or Aaron Nola. It just forces you to get a little bit more creative. So if you want to stack Dodgers, I say go Walker Buehler. It means you need to have a one-off in there somewhere, which is always kind of annoying, but I think it's worth it. So Walker Buehler is the pitcher I'd use if you're stacking the Dodgers for tonight. That is all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in for this stream, not only today, but also for this entire week in the past couple of weeks. I always appreciate it. Make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube page. You get notifications as we go live. Also follow us on Twitch and Facebook. Be sure to get those questions in. And a reminder, we are live at 9 a.m. Eastern every weekday as well to record the solo shot. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for on the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, asking good questions, being engaging, and just being, really smart fans. I appreciate that. As always, good luck tonight. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.